Hello, everyone. It's Diane, the massage mentor. I'm here with Aubrey Gowing. Woo! I can't believe that I'm in Ireland right now.
I know you couldn't tell, could you? We're kind of subtle about their
I
backgrounds.
I really like the green. I know it wasn't necessarily originally planned, but you look stunning in green, and green is your color. And
Thank
I
you.
cannot believe that right now I am in Ireland. And
I
I
know.
also can't believe. Serious. I did some research. I always like to do lots of research on people, and I've noticed you online a little more. And I was like, "Who's this Aubrey going?" And then I saw you were in the soft tissue conference, and I got a ticket to that, and I was on that for a day, and I was like, "Who is this old?" And now I know because I looked up, and I let's just can I just get right in there?
Yep,
For,
absolutely.
for me,
Jump in.
I feel like part of my job is not just talking about what you do, but also where you come from. And for me, when I heard a little bit about your history and your parents and everything, that's when I was like, yes, I have to talk to him. I have to talk to him because your father was a yoga teacher and your mother was a body worker as well.
Yeah.
And tell me about, you said you started kind of practicing all this stuff when you were 17. So
Yeah.
can you just like tell us how your dad got into it, how your mom got into it, and what it was like growing up in that house? It had to
Very,
be
very
fascinating.
strange. Ireland in the 80s was very conservative. So it was a really unusual step. While I'd say, like, I did my first massage course training, like learning when I was 17. So that was back in 89, giving away my age. But sometimes when I'm introducing myself in a class, I kind of say, facetiously, I'd say that I started really in utero because my mom actually dragged my dad to a yoga class as kind of a prenatal class when she was expecting me. So I was literally in the womb doing my first yoga class. But the reality is, they both loved it so much. My dad, in particular, enjoyed it so much he decided to go on and study to be a yoga teacher. So it meant then, at the time that we were small kids, around the time I was about 4, he started teaching us yoga postures and meditation practices, breathing exercises. So it was very much something we grew up with. We ate a very healthy diet. We ate lots
Yes.
of homemade bread. There was never a biscuit in the house,
I was thinking,
no junk food. That it was a,
I
a
was
really,
thinking,
really health focused upbringing. And I think I was very, very fortunate. But I did get a hard time as a kid. People are like, what's all that yoga stuff?
right. Absolutely.
Now it's totally different.
Right. So you were well above the curve. And I think, here for me in the States, I was a little above the curve because massage was not, we didn't have ethics, we didn't have book, we didn't have a lot going on in the 90s. But I mean, I feel like we're a little more, Ireland, I just want to say thank you for your diligence and thank you for your passion and thank you for sticking that out because it couldn't have always been easy,
Mm.
at age 17, like being a yogi and like having it be the opposite all around you. So I just want to commend you for your bravery and taking those steps. Seriously, that's a huge accomplishment. And I think sometimes those things get forgotten once you become kind of a well-known industry leader. Like it doesn't just happen. Audrey's been working it.
It's
He's been
it's been a
working it.
long, long road. Yes, yeah, and a lot of hours. I mean, I think that's one of the things about therapy. You can't fake it. Time in the clinic really does build your skills, builds your knowledge, builds your confidence, and it's something that you just really do put the hours in doing, and you learn so much. I mean, I'm always extremely grateful from all the clients I've worked on over the years, all the students I've worked with, because you learn from all those experiences. It's a really, really invaluable process to go through. It's incredible.
And then too, just we'll move on from your family, but I'm just intrigued by this. And your school, you have the school with your sister, Allison,
Yes.
correct? You guys,
Yeah.
I didn't see. I just figured that one out. That took me a little bit. So how does that work? How did that turn out?
It's really interesting. I suppose Alison dragged me into a lot of the training that I did. I tend to
That's
be a little
awesome.
bit insular in my early days, and she would go off and she'd study something new, and she'd go, "Oh, you got to try this one." And I suppose our focus in those early days was very much on relaxation therapies. So
Right.
she dragged me into things like reflexology and Indian head massage and stuff like that. And then we got really interested in corrective body work. It's an interesting dynamic in class because students always say, particularly when we're both teaching on a course, they'd say it's like mommy and daddy. They'll
Oh,
get the not stern, but they'll get the look. Here's the facts from me, and then they'll get the kind of the warmth and compassion from Ali.
but that's a beautiful blend because I do believe that you really do need both. And so I
Yes.
think that that's actually a huge bonus that you're pointing out about your school because that's something that I think a lot of people look for. And I always say when you're teaching a class, if you have more than one person, then the chances of the students liking one of you,
Yeah.
you got the
Fortunately, I think
odds
most
are
of
high.
them like both of us. We tend to complement each other well. We're not like authoritarian, and it's a good blend.
It's awesome. And
Yeah.
so in Ireland, how have you noticed like the things are changing quite a bit there?
Yeah.
And since you've started till now, what would you say some of the biggest changes are? You're saying like you I like what you call it too. You call it a holistic massage. Seems to be the root, right?
Yes.
It's like our Swedish massage almost, but with a
Yeah.
little bit more, right?
Yeah. So that oftentimes they describe the difference between traditional Swedish massage and holistic massage as holistic massage being slightly more gentle. That some Swedish massage, some disciplines, particularly how it was originally practiced in Sweden, was a lot more vigorous. That it tended to be almost between a sports massage and a relaxation treatment. Where holistic massage, they'd say, is really encompassing mind, body, and spirit, that you're intending on having a physiological effect, a psychological effect, and an energistic effect, that the person should feel an overall improvement in well-being, not just they got rid of a knot in a muscle. So there is that component where I'd always say you're aiming to bring the person to really like a meditative state, because I'd say most of the strokes you're doing are quite sedative, but then you've occasional like Topomon type movements that are a little bit more stimulating. So the person doesn't go completely asleep, but they're not wide awake. They're in that kind of middle ground between the two, that kind of meditative state. And that's really what we're aiming for in a holistic treatment, which is very different, I think, in compared to corrective work, where you're oftentimes having much more of a dialogue. So
I love it.
different treatments. I love them both, to be honest, even though I would say certainly my clinic focus for the last 20 years has been chronic pain. Um, my passion for relaxation therapies has always been there and still is there today. It's something I really enjoy teaching. It's something I enjoy receiving. I don't do very much of it in clinic these days, but it's such an amazing treatment.
I personally I get one every week, sometimes two. I
I
do.
used to.
I do. I can't stay away. It's like I don't drink wine or anything, so it's like my drink. It's like my drink.
Yeah,
So you're tell me a little bit about the chronic pain area for you. It
yeah,
seems, we all kind of like get our thing that we really enjoy. Some would call it our niche. And it
yeah,
seems like you're moving towards the chronic pain. Tell us a little bit and you're incorporating sports massage into that. Tell
yeah,
us a little bit about that because I think that's your passion. Could you
yeah.
go on a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we actually teach a 3-year program in what they term here sports massage, but really we start off with kind of like myofascial techniques in the first year. When they go on to year 2, they're doing much more kind of injury. Like we'd say year 1, you're learning to treat dysfunction, but not injury. So year 2, they go into much more injury. There's a lot more assessment. There's a broader range of techniques where they're incorporating neuromuscular techniques, PNF type stretching, MET. We tend to use MET more here than PNF. I say PNF for our American audience when we talk about the difference between the two, the commonalities and so on. And then at level 3, we really teach myoskeletal. So they're doing a lot more kind of nerve and joint and ligamentous work and things like that. So it's a really, really thorough program. So sometimes just talking in terms of sports massage, that term, that label is so broad and it means so many different things in different parts of the world. But I suppose what really got me interested in it from the clinic standpoint, which then followed through into your focus in your teaching, is with relaxation therapies. I always found I loved doing them. I'd get into that meditative state myself. We used to, when we were training people, we'd have people do a massage marathon where they did 10 treatments in a row when they were learning. Yeah, once they learned the full body, they had to do a massage marathon. And when I was doing it, my sister Alison organized the clients for me. So I did 24 people in a day. Yeah, that's averaging kind of 40, 45 minutes a person. But she just kept them rolling through. And I really got into that. People say,
Wow.
were you exhausted afterwards? I was like, no, I had to go out for a walk to ground myself because it's
Yes.
like doing Tai Chi for 24 hours.
Yes.
It's
I love
phenomenal.
that.
So while I love that stuff, I always felt it was hard to calibrate how it affected the person. I feel good, I feel great, I feel relaxed. Very hard to measure. And what I found really interesting from the get go was when I started to treat people with chronic issues, even before I knew much corrective techniques, even with general kind of relaxation stuff, I could start to see these improvements in people, reduction in back pain, doing like basic myofascial techniques, some friction, stuff like that. And that got me interested. As going, oh, they came in with pain and they're going out with less pain or no pain. And so I found the idea of then assessing and treating and very targeted work just so much more rewarding, because you could see the person had an increase in a range that you could measure. The two things I always say is that the effects were immediate and measurable, particularly when it came to range of motion. It's very objective. The subjective stuff like pain, even still, people on a pain scale that say, oh, I've come in with a 6, I'm going out with a 0, I'm going out with a 1. And what has, I suppose, always inspired me when I'm learning new modalities, new approaches, is does it speed that process up? And that's one of the things that really got me hooked on myoskeletal. That stuff that was taking me maybe 4 to 6 treatments was taking me 1 to 2. So that kind of stuff, that's always what drives me. It's like, what is because I always say there's no such thing as right or wrong when it comes to therapy. There is more or less effective depending on your stated goal. So nothing is
Ah,
wrong.
I like
It's
that.
just,
Wait,
is
wait,
it the
wait,
best way to do it?
wait, wait,
So
wait.
that leads me to the search for what is the best way constantly. What's best? What's going to refine things? What's either going to make it a better experience for the client? What's going to make it a faster response? What's going to make it more lasting? So you're incorporating a lot of different things in terms of your focus on home care, your focus on even the environment that you're bringing your client into, the interactions that you're having. So there's always elements. That's what I find so fascinating about it, because our business is multifaceted. So there's always another area you can be focusing on, improving, developing, and just, again, just moving those markers, those measurable changes.
That is, whoo, that was, yeah, that
There's
was
a
a
lot
lot.
in that.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That
But
was awesome.
I've found that with so many other things. Wrote a book recently on kinesiotaping, and I found very much like I trained in the classical style. I did the Dr. Kenzo Kaza style kinesiotaping. I've studied with a few other people to get a broad perspective, but I kind of came up with my own model that I found worked best. Again, a lot of what I do is based on clinical experience. You could say trial and error, hopefully not too much error, but always refining and seeing what's working best. And that is another tool that I found really made a huge difference in, really, I think, almost doing the home care for the client. But I always felt that the methodologies that were out there didn't make much sense to me. So I'm that kind of person where when I go to study something new, I will empty my mind. It's like, I'm not here to validate my preconceived ideas. I'm here to learn what you have to teach me. Then I'm going to go home and I'm going to go through a process of blending and seeing where do these bits fit in to my world model. And then oftentimes I'll refine it, change it, and come up with my own thing.
No, that's beautiful. Like this is just like I love the way you're describing everything. It's like perfect, and it again it shows the way you're speaking about your work. One, how much you love it, and two, that you've been doing things for a while. Because that's one of the things we were talking about. Time in our industry, nothing can replace time. Because you get to the point where you're like, I'm going to change the world, and then you're like, this isn't working, and then you step back and you go, oh, like I have to always be a student because the human mind, the human body, the human race is always changing. And in order for me to keep up, I have to stay open. So I love how you said that, emptying your mind and just being a good listener, and always being teachable will
Yep.
make you and makes you an incredible leader in our industry.
Thank you. Well, I say in every class, when students are sitting in front of me, I say, I totally relate to where you are now. Not from historical stuff like, oh, when I started out. I mean, I still take classes. I was actually counting up there. I think I'm up to I think I broke 50. I think I'm in 51 different qualifications, certifications, diplomas, the whole lot, because I still study. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I totally get where you're coming from. Sitting there right now, you probably have different hopes and fears and concerns and stuff. And hopefully we're going to address all of those and you're going to have a great time. And, I get it. I know what you're facing. And the one thing I've been saying to clients a lot over the last maybe 5 or 10 years is be patient. Where we're talking about time, be patient with yourself and your learning process. Recognize that you don't know it all. You never will, but you're gathering information that's going to help you to develop and grow. So be patient with the people you're working with. Be patient with your clients when you go out and treat them. That you really have to have that patient approach because, like you said, time is irreplaceable.
You know what my
Might as well be
favorite
enjoying it.
you know what my favorite quote is about time?
No,
It's very deep. Time takes time. Time
it
takes time.
does.
I mean, it does. So you
Gobbles it
keep
up.
profit. Yeah. So what is, I mean, so, okay. So here's another thing I'm curious about, I'm itching about is I know what clients are like here in the States, and
Mhm.
I know our language here in the States. How would you compare, just because you've dabbled in both, how would you compare kind of how clients differ here in Ireland, and then also kind of, the language, like holistic massage? I love that.
Mm.
Like I said, in 1996, that's what my teacher called it, a holistic massage, and I thought that was great, and kind of got away from that. So it was nice to hear that again. So
Yeah.
what other subtle differences could you share with us? Because I'm fascinated.
Oh gosh, I think what I've really noticed, because I've taught classes now on 4 different continents at this stage, and what's actually stood out for me is not so much the differences, but the similarities. That
Yes.
the same challenges are faced by the massage community all around the world. We all have the same issues. I always say that the thing that I like least about clinic work is the clock. Watching the time. It's not the clients, it's not the complex cases, it's none of those things. It's I want to do 5 minutes more in this person, but I've got somebody else coming in, and even building in breaks. I always run through those breaks and stuff like that. So uh, I find that there's a lot of the same kind of challenges facing people everywhere. I mean, there are other things. I think in the States, you guys probably are a little bit more regulated. You're probably a little further ahead in terms of a kind of a cohesive licensing that is both you have state licensing, and then you have your national licensing and stuff like that.
Right.
Here it's voluntary, so standards go up and down a certain amount. Generally, the standards are very good here in Europe.
Right.
What I found really interesting was, from years of study here, before I really traveled very much, you very much got the impression of, oh, there's so many experts in the US, there's so many of the leading lights within our industry. And I thought it was funny. The first seminar I attended in the US, people said, "Oh, you're so lucky coming from Europe. We've got so many huge names over there. There's so many of our leading lights." And I realized, I was like, there are these people sporadically, these geniuses within our industry all over the world. When you're far enough away, they look very close together. So it looks like there's a lot more of them concentrated in an area. So when
No,
you're in the US and you're looking at Europe, they all look very close together, and you
like
think,
you're
wow,
all
there's so
neighbors.
many brilliant people. But from over here, we're looking at the US going, there's so many brilliant people, because they look so crowded together because it's so far away. So you see the same thing, and people complain about the standards and, oh, the school that somebody else went to, or sometimes their school. So usually they're complaining about a different school. So
Of course.
those kind of things are universal. You hear that in Australia, you hear it in Asia, you hear it throughout Europe. So these are universal things, and I think it's something that the industry is really addressing. That we're kind of there's this slow process, this evolution that's happening everywhere. I mean, you mentioned about like the difference between, say, going back to the 80s compared to now, the acceptance that people have, the awareness that people have, the idea now that your health to a certain extent is your responsibility. There is certain preventative things we can do. Whereas I think certainly when I was growing up here in Ireland, I don't know what it was like in the US in the 80s, but people kind of thought, well, my health is my doctor's concern. Like the way my cat is to do at my vet. It's like, well, it's your cat, and your cat's able to look after itself. I remember as a teenager, we had a pet cat, and it got pregnant. It was going to have kittens, and my friend turned to me, and we were teenagers at this stage, not like we were 5 or 6 years old. And he goes, "Does the vet know the cat's pregnant?" I was like, "I think the cat can manage. If something goes wrong, we'll get the vet." So there's that kind of idea of taking responsibility to do the things you can do, and I think people recognizing that massage is one of those things,
Yep.
either for general health or for treating chronic conditions. I think there's much more an awareness of the benefits of those now. And I think that's partly due to the focus within our industry, the moving towards that kind of very prescriptive type treatment for addressing specific dysfunctions with specific techniques, the introduction of a lot more orthopedic assessment, all that kind of stuff has really influenced the public's perception of what we do, and garnered a greater awareness amongst them as to what they can do for their own well-being. So I think that's a big change that I've seen over the time I've been in the industry.
100%. And it's funny because once you have I've been around for a long time, 25 years with my hands on people,
Mhm.
and you see people. I've seen so many people come in after they have a surgery, and I think, oh, not that all surgery is bad. It's not all bad,
Yeah.
but I think more people are now coming before the surgery,
Yes.
right? So they're
Yeah.
finding us before surgery, I wish they would find us before they even need surgery, right?
Yeah. Some
But
do, not many, but
some
some
do.
do. Yeah.
But so for me, I think that's kind of the shift where I'm not seeing them once they have the scar. I'm seeing them to help them not have the scar.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what you were saying too. It's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
And I think as we treat people like that, they tell other people, and word does permeate. I mean, I've had the same experience. I've had clients, I've had some really amazing clients where they have really left it too late. Like you said, they do need surgery at this stage, but they come in for some pre-surgical treatment. And it means the surgeries always go so well because the cause has been eliminated. The surgery now corrects the effect. And then when they come for post-surgical treatment, I mean, I've had people with total knee replacements cycling bikes 10 days after their total knee replacement. Surgeons going, possible. And you're like, well, they got treatment. They corrected the reason they need that surgery.
Right.
So yeah. And I've seen cases as well where people have come into me and I'm saying, look, I think you need to go and see an orthopedic surgeon. We've gotten things pretty good, but that last step is going to require surgery. Or like you said, best case scenario, people come in soon enough that by the time they've had a couple of treatments, they're going, I've had the same people go back to surgeons and surgeon go, you don't have any symptoms, no point in doing surgery.
Right. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I could just listen to your beautiful accent and talk with you for another half an hour. You want to just tell us what you have coming forward too. And I just want to mention too that you have written 2 books. Do you want to give those a shout out? You have any handy?
Sure. Yeah. So the first book I wrote, Eric Dalton actually wrote the foreword for me. So I was very, very fortunate there. That is on myoskeletal and sports therapy. So it is kind of blending. It's what we teach in our to our third year students. So it covers a lot of the book I've written so far is the lower body. I'm working on the upper body. Haven't got to that yet. That's going to be book 3. And then book 2 is the other one I mentioned, the kinesiology taping book, but that's actually a whole online course as well. So
Oh,
there's like
cool.
7 hours of video. Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
instead
awesome.
of just doing taping, I included assessment. So it's kinesiology taping strategies and assessment. So you get to test and see, well, what does this person actually have? How does that tie in with our methodology and body work? Because I very much follow the same approach in terms of the theory of muscle balance and improving coordination between strong and weak muscles, or you could say patterns of fascial migration, use and overuse. So all of that's incorporated into the concepts and the protocol for each taping. So once you understand the basic concepts, you should be able to figure out how to do the assessment and do a taping anywhere beyond the
Wow.
really comprehensive list of taping strategies listed in the book. And I talk about different like individual tapings and then compound tapings where you might group different things together to address a number of dysfunctions. So that's really popular when people can buy just the book or you can get the online course. We actually have a special on as well because if you buy the 2 books, we will do shipping for the price of one. You save yourself about $20 shipping. So if you're buying in the US, you can just order the 2
Will you
together.
sprinkle
We'll discount it.
will you sprinkle any Ireland dirt or anything in the
Oh
package?
yeah, yeah. There's always a shamrock or 2 in there. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
But yeah, next year there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. We just finished a 4-day seminar with Till Luca and Sue Hitzman here in Ireland, and it was a brilliant experience because it was a hybrid seminar. We had students in the room, and then we had virtual participants, and then I was teaching a part live in the room. Till and Sue are presenting from the US. So I have to really thank both of them for, Till in particular was up at like 4 a.m. for some of his presentations because of the time
Ew.
zone difference. And I know what that's like because as you said, I was presenting at the International Soft Tissue Therapy Congress on Sunday and I was up at 4:30 or something to present for that. So I know what that's like. But next year we're doing more of those. We have one for January. We have another one in April. We've one in June and another in July. So people can join these from anywhere. We
Cool.
do record them. So if you do miss, like say if a class is going to be starting at 9 a.m. Irish time, it's going to be middle of the night for you guys. You can join in the middle of the day and then you can watch the recording when it comes out the following week. So we
Perfect.
literally spent another week whittling down those recordings, that 32 hours down to 16 hours of the most relevant stuff. So all the practicals are there, all the demos
Oh,
are there
that's
that people
great.
can watch back. We have a couple of special guests coming up that I'll be announcing soon. I can't quite yet. I've said I wouldn't say anything yet, but we do have a couple of special guests lined up for each of those seminars. So if people are interested, they can go onto our website. It's hcd.ie and they can
And I'll
find
post that
information about
too.
the next
I'll
one. Yeah.
post it.
Yeah.
I'll post all your information above the video when we're done talking so that people can find you and take your
Thank you.
classes and check you out. I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for your time. It was so wonderful getting to talk to you. Is
Well,
there
thank
anything
you.
else you want to leave us with?
No, other than when are we going to get you to come over to Ireland and talk business to our sports students and our holistic students? I
I am
think
ready.
once travel restrictions start to lift, people are going to be traveling like crazy
I
because there's
know
going to
it's
be
going to be
so much
madness.
contact has happened now virtually that I think people are looking forward to meeting people in person. So
I
I think there's going to
know.
be a lot of that kind of live seminars and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll get something like that
So
organized.
true. So
Yeah.
true. Well, we're going to sign off now. If you would hang tight, Aubrey, I want to catch up with you for a minute before we go. Everyone,
Okay.
thank you so much. I'll post every little bit of information I can find on Aubrey above this interview once we're done. Everybody have
Thanks
a
for
good day.
joining
And
us,
thank
folks.
you very much, Aubrey. I appreciate it.
Thank you.